Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished entrepreneur, a fellow IPO member from India, Mr. Naynesh Pasari. Naynesh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Adhisosh, for having me here and really excited to speak to you.
Thank you. Naynesh is the founder and chief executive officer of Packmate Grreen LLP, and as I mentioned, he's a fellow member of the YPO. So, Naynesh, let me start with my first question. Tell me a little bit about your journey and what was the inspiration behind the Packmate brand?
So, Ashutosh, we've always been in the paper business. I'm the second generation entrepreneur. My father started the company called Sri Krishna Paper Mills,
Yeah.
established in 1974.
Hmm.
And so it's been more than 50 years that I've kind of been visiting the factory, learning about different types of paper and so on. And traditionally, we've been doing papers which are used for industrial uses, for example, packaging and food applications, plywood industry, publication, and so on. And now people talk about sustainability. People talk about is paper made from only trees, which is obviously not true. And more so that today our children are so well,
Where?
educated, and they ask questions that make you start thinking about what you're doing.
Hmm.
Visited the factory once and she saw a lot of water being used because paper is a water intensive industry. Although between 60 to 70% water is reused, but then you still draw fresh water. So she asked me once that, when she was in the factory, that the amount of water you use, does it really all go waste? And what are you doing to solve this problem? So, as a business owner, I think when we are consuming a large amount of water, it becomes our responsibility to
Correct.
kind of save water in some sense.
Hmm.
So that's how the idea of Packmate was born. That what are we really doing to, bring a product which is up to 70% less water. It is still used for your printing and other writing needs, which is similar to the other paper.
Hmm.
So the idea behind Packmate is very simple. It is unbleached. So when you are not removing inks from recycled paper, then you are saving on water. You are saving on those chemicals, and you're not really making the paper white and bright.
Hmm.
And that's how you end up saving a lot of water, and that's the whole idea behind Packmate.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit more about the unbleached, recycled, tree-free paper that Packmate makes and how do you differ from others?
So paper is made traditionally. The large paper mills make papers in three different ways. One is from tree pulp.
Yeah.
Then you extract wood chips, and then you extract the fiber from the wooden chips, and you make the brown wooden chips into kind of white paper. And then the other way is agro-based fiber, which a lot of mills in India in the north are doing, and some across the world are also doing. So you have sugarcane waste, and then you have wheat, like wheat straw. So in all these processes, you are traditionally using a lot of bleaching because the fiber that you get initially is all brownish or all beige, right? So it's not white.
Yeah.
And then you are using chemicals and processes to make that white.
Hmm.
Recycled paper is very simple. You are using waste which you are collecting from offices and schools. And when you are making a recycled unbleached paper, what you
Hmm.
are doing is you are leaving the paper the way it came to you. So for example, if I'm drawing cartons from as a waste and I'm giving you a finished product which is used for printing and writing and for your copier needs, daily in your printers,
Hmm.
the color of the paper will be little brownish.
Hmm.
Now, to adopt something which we've all been using across the world is where the whole mindset game comes and the whole change aspect comes. So to switch to sustainability, I think one has to forego a certain kind of mindset, and that's what we've kind of done. That we are bringing you a product which is absolutely in the way that we get the waste. So that's the whole premise behind
Very
it.
interesting. And for my viewers and listeners, tell me a little bit more about the life cycle of unbleached recycled paper from sourcing materials to end use.
So life cycle is very simple. We get waste from local kabadi walas, as you
Mm.
say, and the big godown owners. Then we also get some waste from across the world.
Mm.
Uh, so for example, if you get carton waste, which is called old corrugated cartons, we put it in the system, we churn it, and then we pass it through a screen or a mesh, which removes some dirt count, and then it goes on the machine. And then it's cut and packed into reams or notebooks, notepad stationery that we make, and then it goes into the final hands of the consumer. It could be government, could be a corporate, and so on. And if they like, then they reach back to us and then say that we've accumulated a lot of waste, so can you take it back? And then we arrange that as well, and that comes back to our factory. So traditionally, a life cycle will be between, I think, 30 days to 60 days for the whole process.
Well said. And what are some of the key benefits of using recycled and tree-free paper?
Many actually, and number one, of course, is that we are not cutting any fresh trees to fulfill your paper requirements. The next is that we have a carbon assessment for 80% lower carbon footprint against the traditional, bleached paper. So this assessment was done by a company in India who, came to the factory and did all the analysis of what we use, how we use, how much water we use, what is the way we are drying the paper. And we use biomass for drying the paper against the regular coal. And since we don't use any harmful chemicals, which are many, if you note them, for example, chlorine and hydrogen peroxide and sodium bisulfite and so on. End of the day, all those chemicals are going back in the water table in some way. So
Right.
that is the other thing. And the most interesting part I learned from a school when I went to present that most of the children, have a tendency of flipping the page using their mouth. Like they just put their hand in the mouth and
Yeah.
then they turn the page. So
Mm.
and when they put the finger back in the mouth, it's kind of having those chemicals, and our
Correct.
paper doesn't have that. So we are not saying that you can actually there is no negative chemicals in it. So it's pretty much safe to kind of even if you're by chance kind of having the paper in the mouth and then you throw it out kind of thing. So you're not really having that
Well
scare.
said. Well said. But the other aspect that I wanted to get your thought on was, how do you ensure the quality and durability of your unbleached paper as compared to the other alternatives made in the traditional ways?
Everything works on research and development, and we've come a long way from learning from the mistakes and to make a product which is actually durable and usable. So initially we had a lot of challenge. We made a lot of consignments which got rejected because the paper was not functional on the printers and for the writing needs. I think the best thing that has happened is that we have gotten approved by the government under the BIS certification. So it's ISI or Bureau of Indian Standards is the certification where you are allowed to sell to the government.
Right.
I think that's the benchmark now that we know that the paper is durable because it's now going to the government and other agencies. So I think you always learn from different trials, and we've done a lot of trials, learn from customers, and taken their feedback in a positive way and develop something which is durable.
Very interesting. And when it comes to costs, is unbleached recycled paper similar to conventional paper, more expensive, cheaper?
So it is absolutely the same price or
Okay.
just tad bit higher. And this is something that we always say to our clients that sustainability will come at a cost,
Correct.
but it cannot be cheaper than the regular one. So, a lot of times people say that when we switch to, an unbleached recycled paper, we should be benefited because that's why should we change otherwise?
Right.
We simply say that if you really want to be sustainable, then either you want to be sustainable or you just want to save money. You can't get both in one in basket.
Correct.
But we are not charging a premium, and the reason is because we are trying to educate people that you don't really need paper which is absolutely white and bright for your daily use. And once you're able to cross that barrier, then I think the more users we have, the more people will understand the use and the benefits of this paper.
Amazing. Thank you. So let's now talk about your brand, Packmate, and we can see the brand on top of uh, Naynesh's left shoulder. And you call it Packmate Sustainable Stationery. Uh, Tell me some of the unique features of Packmate Sustainable Stationery and what sets it apart. Also, what are the kinds of stationery products available?
So first, I'll just come to the name, how the name came,
Mhm.
and mate is basically a friend or a inspirer or someone that you look up to,
Mhm.
and pack is like a package, right? So we all call ourselves it's your packaging partner to a sustainable future. That's the kind of mindset behind the name.
Mhm.
Uh, and in terms of different items or different products and the benefits of it, so we started from A4 copier.
Mhm.
That's something that anyone will use once in their lifetime.
Correct.
You need to print something in your lifetime. You can't go digital fully.
Yeah.
So if you're able to enter your houses or residences or offices and so on with something which is sustainable, then we've
Mhm.
basically got your attention.
Mhm.
Then we moved on to notepads and spiral diaries and A4 registers, long books and memo pads, and so on. Then we went on to recycled pens, pencils. Everything had the kind of the brown theme to it.
Mhm.
The unbleached look, like whenever something is not white, it gives you the unbleached look or the sustainable
Correct.
look. And I think that's the biggest thing, that we are trying to bring everything to your table, which makes you feel good, makes you feel happy. That even if you've not really changed the world, we've done something that we could sitting on our table today
Mhm.
to go towards a sustainable future.
Very interesting. Thank you. And Danish, my next question is, what types of sustainable materials do you use in the production of Packmate?
So as I said earlier, we use recycle waste,
Mhm.
and sometimes the waste comes in the form of cartons. Sometimes the waste comes in the form of old newspapers that we throw. Sometimes the waste comes in the form of office records, like it could
Mhm.
be your books and diaries kind of thing. Then the other thing that we use is biomass to dry the paper on the machine.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's something sustainable. The only thing I think right now which we are not kind of sustainable is the electricity to actually manufacture, to run the factory.
Right.
And we are, in talks with a lot of vendors for going solar.
Mhm.
It's a big investment and it's a big decision, so we are still evaluating that. So right now we draw power from the grid, which obviously comes from a thermal plant, which is not based on biomass. So
Mhm.
that's something we are not sustainable.
Right.
But on every product that you see, even the paper on our A4 cover ream is made from a brown unbleached craft paper that we make ourselves, right?
Okay.
We don't use any plastic whatsoever in any of our products. So if you pick up our copier, if you pick up our notebook, stationery, anything,
Mhm.
you will not see 1% of plastic anywhere. The only downside is that sometimes when we have to ship the product out to
Mhm.
various customers abroad or India, unfortunately, there is no better substrate available in the world against plastic.
Mhm.
Now people are making compostable plastic, but to save the paper from rain or dust, we use one layer of plastic to cover the consignment for the shipping.
Amazing. Well, based on your comment, I think I'm going to switch to ordering Packmate for my offices, for my, for the photocopiers, etc. I
Yeah,
think we must
looking
be,
forward to your feedback.
I will certainly, and we must all move towards it. But my next question, Nainesh, is what are some of the challenges you face in convincing customers to switch to sustainable stationery products?
So I think every business goes through challenges, and we are
Yeah.
no different. We have had a lot of challenges in the beginning. When we got this product out, it was as if the question was, why do you need this? When
Mm,
there's already a white paper available for your A4 paper or for your writing needs, why do you need this paper? And I think sustainability is a term where we kind of, or some of the people in the world, or some of us kind of um, take it lightly. So if one wants to be sustainable, they will look for sustainable options and try to bring a change in the way you work. But
mm,
if you don't want to be sustainable, then you have everything else available to you. So the biggest challenge is the mindset that the people are so used to and ingrained because of the way we've been brought up as people and as consumers of paper, that paper should be white and bright, whereas our paper is not. So the questions that this paper will ruin my printer, this paper will ruin my pen, this paper will not be visible, and I
Mm.
will not be able to read properly. All these kind of challenges to convince people and to make them understand has been there, and it continues even today.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
think that's the learning curve, and we really enjoy explaining about this because today we feel that we're in the business of educating people about unbleached paper rather than selling unbleached paper.
Absolutely. And the positive thing is that the younger generation, people like you, are much more aware of the importance of sustainability than people of my generation, So I think that itself is a big change, and I'm sure you're seeing a lot of young consumers. But my next question, Nainesh, is, and when I was reading about you and preparing my questions for my conversation with you, um, I was fascinated to learn that you contribute to reducing plastic usage in the stationery industry. Tell me more about this.
So as I mentioned earlier, if you pick up any A4 ream and the market size of A4 copier today is about 15 to 20,000 crores in India.
Hmm.
So if you pick up any A4 ream, you will see that the cover of the ream,
Yeah.
very thin layer of plastic, right?
Correct.
And that plastic is not recyclable because that waste is laminated with paper.
Mm.
When, as a paper mill owner, if you get that sheet to
Mm.
recycle, you will have a lot of challenges because that plastic will not be separated.
Mm.
So either a workforce has to be set up specially to remove the laminate, and when you're trying to remove the laminate, you will be destroying the fiber, which is the paper. So the
Mm.
content of recycling or the way to recycle that is very, very challenging.
Mm.
As I mentioned earlier, we don't have any plastic on our A4 reams, and that's where I think we are bringing the biggest change in reducing the plastic consumption.
Mm. Well said. So, I have time for three more questions for you. Um, can you share any success stories where your clients have made a significant shift towards using sustainable stationery? And I don't want any names, of course.
Well, I'm happy to take names also, but
Okay.
I think the biggest success story for us has been that um, most of our competitors have firstly started recognizing us.
Hmm.
So when your competitors start recognizing you and openly appreciating what you do on a platform like LinkedIn, which is a business platform,
Yeah.
I think you're on the right track. Secondly, we have a corporate, and I can share the name. It's Deloitte. So Deloitte India has been very, very kind to us. They
Hmm.
have moved to A4 copier and notebooks for their stationery needs completely on our paper,
Okay.
and we really appreciate their support. And similarly, I think we are happy that the government has also now, through the tenders and through the GEM portal,
Mm.
they've also started, using this paper for depending on the tenders we get.
Mm.
And even when we do get a lot of, I think, backlash in terms of the paper, when we explain to them, we are still able to convince most of them.
Right. Very interesting. Two more questions. What are your future goals for Packmate in terms of expanding a sustainable product line?
I think the first is to enter the European market. I have been really, really trying since last, I think, 2 years when I started thinking about this brand and started doing the research and development to enter Europe and have a dedicated partner for us who understand sustainability. We
Mm.
still haven't been able to crack that. So that's number one goal. The other goal for Packmate is that we want Packmate as a pull product. Right now, it's a push product. We want people to understand the value
Mm.
and be open to the idea of using a paper which is not white. And
Mm.
I think when you look for a paper which is sustainable and not white, I think the first thing that you will get is something that we're trying to do. So
Mm.
we want this to be kind of a household name, and we're hoping that in the next couple of years we're able to achieve that.
Fascinating. And Nanish, my last question to you, given the fact that you are pioneers in the field of sustainable paper production, what innovations do you foresee in the area of sustainable paper production in the next few years?
Very interesting because I was recently, at a conference in Japan where we visited a lot of other paper mills there to see what they're doing and what
Mm.
new products are they bringing. And the same question was presented there, that what are the innovations looking, that we look in the next 3 to 4 years as owners or as, as an industry. So we feel that because paper is a product which eventually cannot go out,
Correct.
but it has certain limitations when it comes to your usage and applications against plastic. I think we are looking at technologies such as nanofiber and blend of some fibers with paper, where paper can become durable as well as recyclable. So currently, we're not able to solve the problem of paper being fully waterproof or paper fully being dust proof again like plastic. But I think in the next 2 years we are going to see a lot of research from scientists across the world who are able to bring you a substrate which is a blend of paper, which is durable and can be almost a replacement of plastic.
Wow. And on that note, Naynesh, I want to say thank you for speaking to me about unbleached, recycled, tree-free paper, which you have pioneered in our country. Thank you for talking to us about so many different properties. And the message that I got very loud and clear is that we don't absolutely need white paper. We couldn't, as long as we are protecting our environment, uh, we can work with unbleached paper as well. Thank you also for talking to me about your brand, Packmate, which seems to be making some sort of waves now, and I'm sure it'll just grow from strength to strength. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much for having me here, Ashutosh, and my pleasure, and you have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.